Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity introduces the Ritualist to the Necromancer as the new elite specialization, and this involves summoning spirits, controlling area, and supporting your allies. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the mechanics of the Ritualist so that you can understand how it's played and provide some ideas for builds in PvE and PvP so you can just get in and play if you don't want to worry about theory crafting. So let's just get straight into the mechanics. So as a Ritualist, you will have the Ritualist Shroud. It is similar to the core Necro Shroud. When you enter it, you have a second life bar, and you have 33% power or strike damage reduction. But your life force is also going to be used for other things, so you don't necessarily want to be tanking damage in Shroud. So your one skill is just going to be basically a shoot like this, kind of like core Shroud does, but it's going to mark the target and all of your spirits will attack that target. So that's important because your spirits can kind of go haywire and not attack the target that you want to. So the Shroud 1 skill does a little bit of damage, but it's also important for the utility of deciding what your spirits attack. So the first skill or spirit that you'll use is called Anguish. This will be a tab target ability, so you have to be targeting something to summon this. You cannot use it unless you have a target. And what this will do is it will cripple and apply vulnerability to the target, and it will put Painful Bond, which increases the damage that they take from summoned creatures. So creatures can include minions and your spirits. And then while it's summoned, it will attack and do more damage to enemies the more conditions they have on them, and if they are crowd controlled. So it synergizes pretty well with the next ability, but first we want to look at the F2 skill, because you can rupture your skill. So whenever you summon it, you can leave Shroud, and that will automatically expire the spirit, which will cast the rupture effect wherever that spirit is with a radius of 240. And for the Anguish spirit, it does Fury and Might to your allies and will do a bit of damage. So this is like your basic kind of like DPS spirit. But the 3 skill is Wanderlust, which will instantly daze. So this is a ground target skill instead of a tab targeting skill. So you can summon it and it will daze, and it will apply chill, vulnerability, weakness, and slow, as well as a knockdown after a short delay. So we're going to summon it again, and if you summon a spirit again, it makes the previous similar spirit, it will expire that spirit and rupture it automatically. So you cannot summon the second one and then rupture it again unless your rupture cooldown has already come off. So there's a bit of a trade-off to using one spirit too much. You kind of want to use them all. And the Wanderlust will also give a fear when you summon it, so, or when you rupture it. So it does a daze, and then after a delay, it does a knockdown and a bunch of conditions, and then it will fear when you rupture it. So a lot of CC, which means that it synergizes very well with the Anguish. So what you could do is you could summon the Anguish, and then you summon the Wanderlust, and then you can rupture the Wanderlust as well to add more conditions, and if they're crowd controlled, it will do more damage. And then you could rupture the Anguish when you're ready to leave Shroud. Then you have the 4th skill, which is Preservation. So you summon this, and it immediately gives protection and vigor to allies, and then it will constantly heal and cleanse conditions from allies in the area. But when you're in Shroud, you cannot be healed. So this is mostly a supportive skill, and when you leave Shroud, it's going to desummon, right? So you can't get too much healing from this unless you use a trait later on that allows the spirits to persist. And then when you rupture it, you get Aegis, resistance, and stability. So if you want the stability earlier, then you probably want to rupture this, but if you don't need it now, then you can wait and rupture it when you leave Shroud. And of course, if you use the Preservation as your main ability, if you're playing like a healer build, then obviously you want to rupture it early and then maybe use another one to get out the extra healing. So there can be some playmaking for support builds there as well. But there's also the 5 skill, which is Summon Spirits, and this will teleport you with no animation to the 900 range, and your spirits will also follow you. So what I can do is I can summon the Wanderlust on the target and it dazes, and I can move it over here and it'll do the knockdown over there maybe. Or I want to rupture the Wanderlust over here, so I port over here and then I leave Shroud and now it does the fear. Or maybe I want to support an ally with my preservation and it's not healing them because it's over here. So my ally can get the support over here from the preservation, or I can give them stability over here. So there's a lot of different combos you can do with positioning, and depending on what area you're controlling, and you can kind of like adapt to the situation using this. And for example, maybe I want to do like a big burst combo, right? So I will summon all my spirits, and then I will wait for them to do their damage or whatever, and then I'm going to port and then leave Shroud, and then it does a huge burst there with all of them rupturing at the same time. And yeah, there's just some options that you can do with that, and there's a lot of play to it. But the traits are going to change how that works, so let's go over those. So first of all, your spirits will always attack every 3 seconds, and they're only attacking while you're in Shroud. So wandering spirits will make our spirits teleport to us every time they perform their attack. So I can summon all the spirits. Can't do that one because I don't have a target. But then it will do its attack or whatever, and then it will teleport to me. So this is great for a build that wants to have the spirits out for a long time, but doesn't want to have to keep resummoning them, because you can just constantly get that auto attack based on where you're moving to. Maybe not the most powerful, but for like a casual kind of build, definitely will be using this one. And then we have Spirit's Gift. When you summon a creature, so there's a differentiation between spirits and minions here. Creatures are just both, and this means that minion builds are going to get some synergy from this as well. You'll heal and cleanse conditions from allies whenever you summon a creature. And you also, I believe, gain life force when you summon a creature. So summoning spirits is going to give you more life force, which will help you summon more spirits over time. But explosive growth is going to do extra damage when you summon creatures. So healing and cleansing, or damage, or your spirits move with you. And then Wielder's Remedy. So the utility skills of the Ritualist are weapon spells, which are basically just sharing buffs to nearby allies. And this trait will allow you to cleanse conditions from yourself and from allies whenever you use a weapon spell. Then we have Empowering Spirits, which grants boons to nearby allies when you summon a spirit. And so depending on which spirit you use, it will give you Might for Anguish, Fury for Wanderlust, Resolution for Preservation, and then all of them will give Quickness. So I like to use the last spirit and then kind of stay in Shroud for a little bit to get more value off of the Quickness and just use the Shroud auto attack. And then when I run out of the Quickness, if say you're not running a boon build, right, you can play a Quickness or a Quickness DPS or a Quickness healer, and you can have permanent Quickness. But if you're not running boon duration, right, then you probably want to summon the spirit, attack a little bit, and then once your Quickness runs out, you're not getting as much value, so you'll leave and then rupture your spirits. You don't want to rupture the spirits immediately, in other words. And then we have Spirit Strength. So spirits deal more damage and their healing is increased. So preservation will heal more, and then the other spirits will do more damage. So that's great for a spirit kind of spamming build. And then we have Ruptured Souls. So this is just going to give you access to your rupture skills, and we kind of went over that already, what that does, but it has a minor trait that tells you what it does basically. So now the Grandmaster traits, we have Wielder's Boon, which gives the full benefit of your weapon spells. So when you share weapon spells to your allies, it does like half the effect or half the stacks of the buff, and this will give them the full benefit. Then we have Lingering Spirits, which allows your spirits to persist after you leave Shroud. So this is really good for the spirit spamming build, and it will consume life force while you are not in Shroud. So you still have to keep up your Shroud generation while you are spamming these spirits. And so there's a bit of a trade-off there, but it will also make the spirits attack every 2 seconds instead of 3. So this is great for builds where you want to go into Shroud, use all your spirits, and there's not too much of an effect from using them more, so we want to leave, and then we can go back to using our actual auto attack, and you can see our Shroud is going down, and so we have to keep using skills that generate Shroud to keep them going, and they will keep attacking. So we get a lot of DPS from keeping these spirits out, while also having the value from using our weapon skills. So this is a pretty powerful trait for sustained fights, but the soul twisting is also pretty powerful too, because this is better for more burst situations. So yeah, and this works very well with wandering spirits as well, because you keep your spirits out and then you keep moving. But soul twisting, if we can get out of combat, is going to be better for more burst oriented builds, because it allows you to use one of your spirits twice, and that means that you cannot rupture the spirit twice in a row, but you can get the initial cast of it twice. So with Anguish, we're going to get the painful bond twice, which is maybe not the most powerful thing, because you don't necessarily need to use it twice in a row because it lasts a while, so maybe that's not the best. But for example, the Wanderlust is really good, because we want to rupture the Wanderlust for the fear, so we can do Wanderlust, get the knockdown, rupture it, get the fear, and then summon it again, get another daze and another knockdown. So a lot of CC with this soul twisting with Wanderlust. But if you're running a supportive build, for example, right, you don't really have any other supportive stuff here besides Wielder's Boon. So a support build would definitely be able to take this. And what you can do with that is you can use preservation, and then you want to get the rupture, but you also want to keep the healing going. Well, then you can rupture it and then resummon it. And also I've got the transfusion here, so I'm getting the double effect of the chill blains, which is giving protection to allies and chilling and poisoning enemies. So a lot of utility from soul twisting, but not as much damage. So if you're going for more damage, then you probably want lingering spirits. You want more utility, soul twisting, and Wielder's Boon is like pure support, but the weapon skills, maybe don't want to go for that too much. Now for the weapon spells, which are your utilities, you've got Resilient Weapon as your heal. This will give nearby allies with a bit of a cast time a buff, and while you have that buff, you will take reduced damage and heal every second. So 6 seconds for you, and if you don't have the Wielder's Boon trait, then it will be 3 seconds for allies. And if you're below 50% health, then it gives 20% damage reduction. So that can be kind of nice. It competes with Well of Blood, but Well of Blood is more stationary, and Resilient Weapon is a little bit more mobile. And then you have Splinter Weapon, which is a classic weapon spell. So you share this to allies. It gives you 5 stacks, and your allies 3 stacks. And whenever you hit an enemy, it will do an AoE effect around that target. So how this could be used is, say, for example, you're in a situation where there's like 5 enemies and they're all next to each other, and maybe you have 5 allies on your team as well. You use Splinter Weapon, and then you use an AoE skill, and then you hit all 5 of those enemies, and there's no internal cooldown on Splinter Weapon, so they can all trigger at the same time, and that means that all those enemies would get hit by 5 instances of Splinter Weapon, and then all of your allies could also do the same thing that you share that to, with only 3 instances of Splinter Weapon, and then you have like this huge AoE burst of damage, which I could see being useful in World versus World, where there's a lot of targets kind of like clumped up together. So this can be great for those situations. Not the best for PvE though, because there's not too much value from the AoE there, and if you want AoE, you probably are using wells, right? So well would actually be pretty good with Splinter Weapon as well. And then there's Weapon of Remedy, which cleanses conditions off of yourself and allies, and it will heal for each condition removed. And this is 5 conditions over 5 seconds. Not the most amazing thing, but when it competes with the Well of Power, it's kind of similar. I mean, this is a stun break, this isn't a stun break, and this can be more mobile, where the Well of Power is more stationary. So, there's some trade-offs there. It's not a clear option which one you want. It's kind of situational. Then there's Nightmare Weapon. This is similar to Splinter Weapon, but it's more single target oriented. So you share Nightmare Weapon to allies. They only get 3 stacks, you get 5. And it will give vulnerability and lifesteal whenever you hit So this can be really good in situations where there's maybe 5 people all attacking one target, because they would all give vulnerability to the target, increasing the burst damage that you do, and then you life siphon that target with all of those hits. So for example, if you share to 5 people and then you all hit in quick succession, 3 times 4 plus 5, let's do the quick math there, that's like what, 17 instances of lifesteal, and that's 17,000 damage. So if you have 5 people versus 5 and you call a target on one guy, you could do a lot of damage to that one target. So Nightmare Weapon is kind of like a single target focusing burst thing, which might be useful in like small scale roaming or PvP. And then we have the Weapon of Warding. This will block attacks with no animation. So all the other weapon skills, I believe, Weapon of Remedy might have an animation. Let's see if I can use it while casting a skill. So yeah, I can use Weapon of Remedy while casting other skills, but I cannot use Splinter Weapon or Nightmare Weapon while casting other skills. So you have to preemptively use it, or kind of like cast like a pulsing AoE and then cast it after the fact. But the Weapon of Warding has no animation as well, so you can use it while casting something. So you block 3 attacks, and your allies will block 1 attack, and then will give protection when it ends. So the best use of this I can see is when you use your heal skill and you don't want it to get interrupted. So it kind of canceled the animation, but it still kept casting the skill there, but you could see it went on cooldown. So basically I use Consume Conditions and then immediately Weapon of Warding so that I block. And this is not a Aegis type block, so a thief cannot steal into your Weapon of Warding. It will get blocked. So this is a pretty powerful block, and it gives it to your allies as well. So you could use it while reviving, you could use it while stomping enemies to prevent them from interrupting your stomp. Pretty powerful ability, and it's also a break stun, of course. So the final weapon spell is Zinrai's Weapon. When you take damage, if it does more than 5% of your health, you will lifesteal, and it gives you 2 stacks. And it can give it to your allies as well, but it only gives them 1 stack. Now it's a stun break that gives you stability, so this is pretty interesting just for that fact, because no other elite skill really uses stun break. On most other classes, maybe like Guardian has a stun break elite, but that's it. So this gives you more build options, because you can go a build with basically no stun breaks, and then you can use your elite skill as your stun break, because yeah, Necro elite skills are not amazing, right? Like you have the Golem, you have Plague Lands. What if you're playing a power build that is kind of squishy, so you don't want to use Lich Form because that's also really squishy. And so you can use Zinrai's Weapon to kind of give you more survivability, and it also helps your allies by stun breaking them and giving them stability. So it's not the most interesting spell, right? But it is definitely pretty decent to use. So I think it's going to see some play. So here's my idea for an open world PvE Minion Master Ritualist Spirit Spammer. So we don't go for the deadly or the death magic, because even though we are basically improving our minions using that, we aren't improving our spirits with death magic too much, because it's mostly minion traits. So what instead we do is we add Soul Reaping there, which gives us some movement speed. It gives us extra damage modifiers, which will affect the spirits. And then Eternal Life, which will give us basically permanent of our life force, so that we will never ever run out of life force, because we're constantly losing life force when we are summoning spirits, because they're going to have lingering spirits, right? Which when we're not in Shroud, we're losing life force. So the importance of this trait is basically so that you can always be able to have your spirits running and never be in a situation where it's like, I don't have enough Shroud, I can't use my spirits, because that's the entire point of the build. But also your spirits and your minions will get value from the vampiric traits, so that will heal and do extra lifesteal damage. And we've got Blood Bank. So because you can't give the vampiric buff to your spirits, but you yourself have the vampiric presence, so your spirits basically get your stuff. And so spirits scale better than minions, and the minions don't scale with your power, but the spirits do. So that's why minion builds want to be more tanky, and spirit builds maybe want to be a little bit more squishy. So we're kind of in between, where we're going squishy, but we also have the minions. And then we go for Marauder with Scholar, because you need to scale your spirits up with your crit chance and stuff. And Vitality is always good for more Shroud. And then Midnight King, because we're doing a bit of CC on this build, and there's not a lot of Fury. And the Might is also good for increasing our spirit damage. So the Wanderlust can give us CC, which can give us Fury. We're not rupturing really the Anguish that often, because we're leaving our spirits out, so we need to get that Fury somewhere else. And then the Axe with Battle Sigil, we'll get Battle to trigger whenever we go in Shroud. And then Force Sigil, because we just want more damage modifiers for our spirits. Then I have a Sword and Warhorn with Agility and Bloodlust. I just use this weapon for the Warhorn 5 to get Swiftness if I really needed it, but I do get Swiftness on Shroud, so it's really just for the Sword 3 if I wanted more mobility, and maybe like an extra CC, but you can pretty much put anything there. So that's pretty much the idea, right? You've got all the spirit spam traits, right? Extra damage. You've got them following you, so even when you're not summoning them very often, they'll still be with you. And then lingering spirits will make them attack every 2 seconds instead of every 3 seconds, but we've got the life force drain, so we need to keep up our life force with eternal life. And then for the utilities, I've just got the minions, right? I've got as many minions as possible, and then nightmare weapons so that we can focus one target with all the vulnerability, and then that vulnerability will scale with my Axe 2, because Axe 2 does more damage to vulnerable targets, right? It has like extra, not only like does every skill does have extra vulnerability, but Axe 2 has extra vulnerability scaling, right? So it's going to give us some value there. But let's summon our minions, and we will get some CC out so that we can get our Fury going, do our AoE Axe or Sword 4. And then let's summon our minions. We could just summon the minions earlier, to be honest, but yeah, they're our main damage, so I'm just going to auto-attack and Shroud a little bit, but we really don't want to be in Shroud, because that's going to make our minions attack slower being in Shroud. So we do want to be moving around. The minions or the spirits are going to be attacking no matter what, but we need to kite here, and so our positioning kind of matters, because we need to be near the thing that we want the spirits to attack, but we also kind of need to survive. So let's give our minions the spirit weapons. We're going to summon our minions again just because we want to get the rupture effect, and they're going to desummon eventually anyways. And I'll just finish this guy off. Axe 2, they don't have vulnerability, so we want to get the vulnerability first with our Sword 4. Give ourselves Might, keep summoning spirits, and then minions, and then we'll give them the vampiric weapon, nightmare weapon, and then Axe 2. I think our spirits are going to need to summon again, so we're going to get the rupture effect. And we'll leave. And the blood bank is giving me a lot of healing here. We'll do the Sword 4. I'm taking a lot of damage, but the blood bank is carrying me here, and I need to summon my spirits over here so I can get away from that wall. And let's resummon our minions. We'll get the rupture effects, but that's because we summon them on top of us. I guess they're always going to be on top of us anyways, because they're just constantly porting on us. So we pretty much always get the rupture effect. Summon the minions again, and the spirits are just popping off this entire time. Axe 2 while we got that vulnerability. And there's actually someone here to help me. Let's resummon the minions on this, or the spirits soon. They're going to desummon, I think. And I believe that the Painful Bond also increases the damage that your minions do, but I'm not sure on that one. I don't think it matters that much. Let's summon the minions. And now that there's one enemy to fight, we're actually going to get a lot more value from the Nightmare weapon. Let's fear this and use this thing, the golem, to CC it, and then our minions are doing big damage, and we can use the Axe 2. Let's rupture so we can get some fury, and then we'll get more fury by having the CC from the Wanderlust. I'm just going to use axe 2. I don't really want to swap that much because the axe is just going to give me a lot more value than the sword. Alright, let's move our spirits over here. Resummon them, might as well. And we're actually going to port over here because the boss just moved. And our minions are over here, so maybe a nightmare weapon over there. And let's Wanderlust, Rupture, so that I can get stability. Painful Bond, Anguish. And we're going to Axe 2 whenever we can. Summon our minions again. Let's get some damage modifiers with the Axe, or the Sword 4 and the Sword 5. They give Might and Vulnerability. And the Vulnerability kind of scales with our minions, so it's not bad. But yeah, the Might is not giving our minions anything. And the minions don't really scale much anyways, so it's kind of nice to invest more into the spirits if you're going for damage. We're going to port over here so we can stay near the boss. Get all of our spirits running again. And let's summon our last minion here. I think we're in the final phase, so let's do some big damage with the Sword 4 and 5 before the Axe 2. Oh, I need to port out of this because that's kind of dangerous. And maybe we can go for the Matriarch here instead, but let's dodge behind them, summon our minions. We don't have any vulnerability, so let's auto attack first, and now I'm going to Axe 2. Dodge this. And we could have Ruptured as well. Our minions are here, so I can share them the Nightmare weapon. We can get our vulnerability up high and do Axe 2. And let's port over to a safer location. We're getting the Rupture effect because we're resummoning the minions. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea. The spirits, they do pretty decent damage over time, but the most important thing is that they're set and forget, right? And we don't have to worry about our life force because we have the trait that makes them better. Let's summon a Wanderlust here to CC and use our elite. Oh, we don't have the elite, so let's fear it. Okay, we got the CC bar broken. Yeah, there's a lot of CC on Ritualist as well. Now let's get the vulnerability up so our next Axe 2 can do some damage. Port over here. Summon Preservation before we leave, and then we can Axe 2. And then we're going to resummon Flash Golem because that's down. Sword 4 and 5 before our next Axe 2. Let's dodge this. I could have used, Ruptured Preservation as well if I really needed stability there. Yeah, let's do this. I mean, I didn't get the stability there from Preservation, but I'm going to port so I don't fall off the ledge here. We need CC. I think we can just kill it here with the Axe 2. We can also get more conditions on the target if we use the Summon Shadow Fiend, right? Because the Anguish does more damage the more conditions the target has on it, so I wasn't using that, but yeah, you can use that for a little bit more damage on your Anguish. And that's pretty much it. So here's my idea for a PvP Ritualist build. It's a team fighter that can support allies and do damage and remove the defenses of enemies with a lot of CC and boon corruption from the dagger. So the idea is we have transfusion, we can use our staff and just help our allies by giving boons. We have the soul marks trait, so we can always at any time gain life force. It's not like the Reaper where you can spam the heal skill and just gain life force so that you're ready for the next fight with Shroud generation. So we need to just spam soul marks with transfusion on ourselves to gain those life force. And essentially because Ritualist needs to have a little bit of life force just to be able to go into their Shroud and then use their spirits, which will then give them more life force. But if they don't have that little bit of Shroud at the start, then they can't even go in and get their spirits, which is really debilitating to the entire class mechanic. So really important that we have those two traits with staff. Then I go for a Marauder and Lynx Rune. We don't really have access to swiftness on this build. If I go for a Warhorn, maybe, but I can't go for Speed of Shadows because I really need the soul marks, as I just said. And then we've got Energy Cleansing on the staff because it's our defensive weapon. And I've got Exposure Battle on the dagger and the sword. So this is like our burst and focus type weapon. When I say focus, I don't mean a focus weapon type, I mean focusing a specific target. So what we're going to do is we're going to CC the target and then burst them with lifesteal from the Nightmare weapon. So we're going to start out with the Sword 5 to fear them. You can use the Sword 5 again to get extra might and weaken the target, but I prefer to get the Dark Pact on them while they're feared, because this is really important to land. So we're going to remove 3 boons. We're going to share Taste of Blood for extra lifesteal for allies nearby. And then when they're immobilized, we're going to use the Dagger 2, which will also give more Taste of Blood, and basically use all of that Taste of Blood up, because Dagger 2 hits 9 times. So it will trigger 9 instances of damage, and that can be used before hitting the Nightmare weapon. And it will use all 5 stacks of the Nightmare weapon to give basically 10 vulnerability and basically 3,000 lifesteal damage. And you have to use the Nightmare weapon after the Dagger 2, because the Nightmare weapon has an animation. But once the life siphon is already on the target, you can instantly use the Nightmare weapon, because it doesn't require an animation after that. So basically you're going to give your entire team the Nightmare weapon while you're doing this combo. And it's a mid-range combo, so you can stand with your allies. And what we're going to do is the Fear into Dagger 3, Dagger 2, and then Nightmare weapon share. And you can see how much lifesteal is going out and how much vulnerability is going out. It's a lot of damage. And when you're focusing a single target like that, that can be really helpful, because we're removing their boons, we're disabling them, and we're putting vulnerability and then bursting them. So that's kind of like the main combo there. Then we also have Vital Persistence for more sustain, and Death Perception, although you could go for other things here, I guess, but Death Perception is just going to give us more crit chance. And we also get more crit damage while in Shroud, though we're not staying in Shroud too long. We do have some burst combos in Shroud. And yeah, we just give lifesteal to our allies. Now the Ritualist traits are Spirit's Gift. So when we summon a spirit, we cleanse and heal nearby allies. Then we've got Empowering Spirits, which gives more boons and quickness when we summon a spirit. So we're going to be doing a lot of like quick combos, and Soul Twisting, which allows us to use one of our skills twice in Shroud. So that's like the secondary combo. So the first combo is Dagger 3, 2 until Nightmare weapon. And then the second one is the Shroud combo, which is we're going to go into Shroud, use the 3. And then if they move out of the knockdown, we're going to port the spirit into them with the 5. And then we'll do 2 into 4. And then we can do another Wanderlust. But we don't want to leave Shroud after the last Wanderlust, because we don't have lingering spirits, right? So we need to wait for it to finish. And then we also get a little bit of quickness after we use a spell. So we want to auto attack a little bit while we have the quickness. And then we can leave. And you can't rupture twice anyways, so there's no need to instantly leave. And yeah, so once we've done that like huge CC combo with double Wanderlust, then we'll be cooking there. But we could also, like if we're in a dangerous situation, you could also do like a double Preservation, and then you can rupture the Preservation and then get some healing. But the thing is, right, you don't heal yourself with Preservation anyways, so it's not much value there. You're just healing your allies with the Preservation. So you really want to go for the double Wanderlust, or maybe double Anguish if you really need just pure damage, but you have plenty of damage. You want to CC to do your damage, which is, yeah, the main idea of this build. Other than that, we have Zinrai's Weapon, which is an extra stun break. We do have Summon Fleshworm as like a get out of jail free card. And the Consume Conditions, we can use that with the Weapon of Warding to prevent thieves from stealing into our heal skill, so that we can basically, you know, not get interrupted on our heal. Because if you get interrupted on Consume Conditions, it's very detrimental, because it prevents you from going into Shroud, because then you want to wait 4 seconds to use your Consume Conditions again, and all those conditions you tried to cleanse are now ticking on you still. So yeah, Weapon of Warding, we want to save that for our heal skill, but you can also just use it as a stun break. That's why I kind of like Zinrai's Weapon, because we can use that as our second stun break and save this as like a, maybe we want to go for a stomp on an enemy, right? We can block 3 times with no animation, and then we are able to secure the stomp that way. So I guess with Reaper, you can go for a stability stomp. On this, you can go for a stomp as well if you do the rupture of the preservation for stability, but not always is that available. Not always is your weapon of warding available. So at the start of every match, you want to use all of your marks to get your life force up, summon the minion, don't use it and waste it, and then summon 3 spirits, because that will give you around 5,000 to 6,000 life force at the start, and then just keep spamming your staff 2 on yourself to keep up your life force. Now we start out the first fight with 7,000 life force, pretty good. And we're just going to look for where the enemy is, and I see they have a bunch up here, so we're going to use our staff 4 to cleanse that blind, and look for our first target. I'm going to port on top of them maybe with the Wanderlust, try to knock them down. I get dazed, so we use our last Wanderlust. Try to wait for it to, but I was running out of life force there, so I couldn't wait for the Wanderlust to occur. I use my dagger 2 into the nightmare weapon to get some pressure on the target, and my ally goes down, so I'm going to try to just wait for them to misform out and see if I can go for a kill. But yeah, our ally is like going really hard with basically no health against 3 players, so I know for sure that he's going to die, so I just leave. If he kited, maybe I would kite and play with that, but no, he's going to die there eventually, so I'm just going to rotate out and go to home and try to get this back with our Necromancer. They have a thief here, and I try to port on them with my CC and Wanderlust combos. Use my Anguish as well, and do a decent amount of damage with that quickness before I leave. Use my sword 4 and 5. This guy is bursting me with his Evoker Fresh Air build. And my team is here respawning, so he's a little bit overextended. He goes invulnerable, so I can't do anything there, and he's still hitting me while I'm invulnerable. We want to get this kill, though, so I'm going to port up with the quickness and auto attack a couple times. Dagger 2 and Nightmare Weapon to secure that kill there. I don't think I needed the Nightmare Weapon, but we got it anyways, so that's a nice pickup, because that guy is kind of troublesome for our team at the moment. Now, this thief is taking a lot of damage from the dagger 2 there. Huge damage from the lifesteal, because it hits so many times, it triggers the lifesteal from the vampiric trait there. Now we're going to go in here and try to help our team. I gave the Zinrise weapon to the guy here who was low, but this guy's even lower. So I'm going to try to give them my staff marks, preservation if I can, to keep them alive. But yeah, we're actually doing a lot of damage here. I run out of the quickness, so I'm going to leave Shroud here. Maybe. Oh, I want to use the preservation one last time and then get stability from rupturing it when I leave. That way I can stability res. And now my ally is dead on node. So we basically got a fire going on here, and everything's hitting the fan. We get 2 downs here, so I'm going to go for the res. And I could have used Weapon of Warding there to secure the res, but we're not going to have an issue here, because I think the one guy who came in is just a firebrand. I poured all my spirits on top of the target, and we just do a bunch of burst damage. So I'm going to cap the node, and their conduit is coming in, but I'm just going to let my allies, because it feels like we're not really rotating very well, so I have to kind of do the job of a duelist, I guess, of capping the node. So we get that kill, and now my Mesmer is at far. I want to prevent the people who are rotating in from their spawn from winning and just keep them staggered. So I'm going to push on to this guy, try to get the dagger 3 on them. Dagger 3 into the nightmare weapon. You see how much damage that did? Huge. And when I use it on my team as well, they can help, but generally my teammates are not going to be instantly doing all 5 of the stacks like I am going to be doing with the dagger 2. But if there's some coordination, maybe they could do it quickly. But yeah, there's no internal cooldown on the nightmare weapon, so the dagger 2 just triggers all of those stacks pretty much instantly. We get this down, we cleave it out so we can get the stillness buff. And we have 4 nodes now. Okay, we just lost mid. That's not good. We just lost 2 nodes, basically. Should have been able to hold that, but now we're going to give our allies the transfusion and healing from our staff. I do the nightmare weapon combo there, but I'm getting focused, so I poured out and used the warding weapon. I'm going to give Zinrise weapon to my team here and give them stability, basically. Use my spirits to knock down this conduit. I'm going to port them over here so I can rupture them when I leave Shroud. And yeah, we get a bunch of kills. So the Ritualist performs really well when it's with its team. Not so well when it's split up. Going to give the staff marks to my ally here to heal them and cleanse them. give stability to my ally. And I don't have my summon spirits ready, so I can't port and secure that kill with that guy, but I realize that our home node is not ours, so I'm just going to go and cap that. But I notice their thief is being annoying. I'm going to weapon of warding preemptively because I know that a thief cannot backstab or steal into that. So it's not Aegis, right? So a lot of times, like, Aegis is just not useful against thieves. Weapon of warding is not a conventional block. And it's actually interesting too. It's unique because most blocks are either a durational block, which means you're casting it and not able to do other things, or it is an Aegis, which means you can boon removal it. So I guess the dagger or the focus 5 on Guardian is like that, but this doesn't really have an animation to it, so I guess they probably want a better animation to show when that block is actually on the Ritualist. So this Fresh Air Evoker is now jumping at me. I don't want to be alone, especially not outnumbered, so I'm going to go in Shroud and just port out, put Preservation down to give myself the Rupture and stability, and I'm going to summon my spirits just to get more life force, and if they come at me, then they'll get bursted by the spirits. Now my allies are respawning, so we're going to go in and look for a target, but we're like really slow. Our team is very slow rotating, so it's making it hard for me to play with my team, which I want to do. I step on the node and use all my spirit weapons and just throw out my spirits, try to do as much damage as possible, and I know that the buff is coming up, so I port down, and in 5 seconds we're going to have to contest this buff. So I'm going to put down my marks to preemptively fight this. Their Antiquary is here, and he's a stealther, so I'm just going to have to use this to bait him out of stealth. He comes out of stealth, I go for the fear into the dagger 3, which immobilizes him, and now I get my dagger 2 into my weapon, which does a huge amount of damage, and then I summon my spirits. He shadow steps out, so I'm going to go for the thing, but now I'm fighting another evoker as well, and now I'm 1v2. I've got the Deadeye, he's using rifle, so I called him a Deadeye, but now there's also a Firebrand, so I'm 1v3, so I have to kite and also prevent them from getting the buff at the same time. I'm getting blind spammed by the thief while he's just being a rat to me, and now my teammates finally arrive. So we didn't even get the rest of the map off that, so we're not really even ahead, so we really need to win this. I use my dagger 3 into dagger 2 with the nightmare weapon, get the revoker to half, and use my sword 4 into sword 5, but they're just running away from me, so we want to attack the closest target, which is their Firebrand, use our spirits on them, and auto attack and Shroud while we have the quickness, and then we're just going to chase this evoker. Now during this time my team is trying to get the cap, but they're getting trolled by the thief, and I need to go for a res on this Firebrand, but the Ellie is actually going to get the revive on them because the Firebrand had the symbol, and my teammates are actually dying 2v1, so this is definitely going to be a difficult match. We need to win this fight still. I put down the weapon of warding, and I'm going to just go for damage because I can't go for a res alone. And we actually get one down. We're just doing heavy damage here. The Firebrand goes down again. Now their second evoker is here. My ally goes down instantly, so we need to cleave their Firebrand out. I'm going to use my marks and then use the dagger 2. It misses though because I'm randomly blinded. We rally my teammate, and I need to get rid of this blind so I can go for the dagger 3. We immobilize them with the dagger 3, burst them. My allies need to get revived again. So we need to cleave this out hard with the quickness of the auto attack and Shroud. We revive them, and now I'm getting focused by their second evoker, and I have to use transfusion to keep my teammates alive who just keep going down. Weapon of war. Okay, he finally fully dies. Maybe he'll go rotate and cap some nodes. And then I'm using all my spirits. We get the kill on their evoker, and now we want to go for the cap. So I poured over to try to get... Okay, the thief is going to annoy us again, so I have to focus him. I get the dagger 3 into dagger 2. He just dies, so we get that kill really fast. And now the second... So we're just getting trolled here because we don't really have enough damage, and we're kind of just dying. Like our teammates are just dying while we're basically winning this fight, and so we don't have the momentum to actually cap the thing, so they're just trolling us. But I'm just going to keep summoning spirits because I don't really care if I win this game. I just want to limit test the Ritualist, and we are doing tons of damage here. I did the Nightmare weapon into the Dagger 2, and the Evoker is really low. I just need someone else to help me do a little bit of damage, and he's going to run away. So let's swap focus to the Firebrand there, and he has to come here and stop the buff. Otherwise, we get it, right? So he has to run through me and take a bunch of damage. I'm going to summon my minions, and by the way, I got Chillblains when I summon the Preservation, which gives us protection. So it gives double protection, because Preservation already gives protection. And we also get protection from Weapon of Warding. Wait, he almost got the buff there, the Thief. We're going to prevent him from doing that, the sneaky play there. Put my minion there, and I got blinded there on my thing, so we didn't get the Immobilize on the Thief. But we're down like 30 points, and the game's about to end, and we've been fighting at this bell for a really long time, but we're getting a lot of value out of this team fight constantly, because Ritualist is just so good in these team fights. My teammate is capping, and the Thief is really pressured. He doesn't stop it, so we actually get the buff. So we need to go and defend the nodes now. And I don't know where the Thief is. He's probably, yeah, he's just going to annoy me with his rifle attack. I'm summoning Wanderlust because I want a CC, and I'm just using up all my Shroud. My ally goes down, and I'm forced to basically just kite out. And I don't want to die because they're focusing me. So I'm just going to let this down. Maybe we can go for the res, but yeah, I'm just getting focused again. The Thief is spamming on me, so I'm taking a lot of pressure off of my allies so they can maybe go for the res. And I summon my spirits on myself, but I need to summon it for my allies. And we're going to have to rupture this eventually, but I put it on top of myself so I can get stability and just tank. I use my heal skill, but I actually get interrupted even though I had the Weapon of Warding, because there was a Firebrand Staff 5 on the node, but I probably wouldn't survive that much longer anyways, because we're just like 4v2 here, and we're dying at home as well. So we're going to lose the match, but you can pretty much see how the Ritualist works. But yeah, if you like and you look at the damage, a lot of damage, a lot of healing, pretty hard carry. Ritualist is pretty powerful right now. And yeah, if you like this content, then please like the video, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.